بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I need your full attention for 20 minutes. I want you to imagine for a moment, to really sit there and imagine for a moment, you hear the words, La ilaha illallah. To you, they're familiar words. These were the words, perhaps they were uttered in your ear as a newborn. Your father, who was filled with joy and excitement, perhaps so overwhelmed with emotion that he almost forgot how to pronounce those familiar words. Maybe it was you softly calling into the ear of your newborn, just as your father did, excited, overwhelmed with happiness and joy. We find joy in these words because they mark for us the beginning of a new life, and in addition to our family. Maybe it's the voice of your teacher saying, La ilaha illallah, standing in front of the classroom as they teach you your first kalima. Powerful meaning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Fa'lam annahu la ilaha illallah. Fa'lam annahu la ilaha illallah. Wastaghfir li dhanbik walilmu'minina walmu'minat. Wallahu ya'lamu mutaqallabakum wa mathwakum. What means, say, O Muhammad, that there is no deity except Allah. No deity worthy of worship except Allah. And ask forgiveness for your sin and for the believing men and women. And Allah knows of your movement and your resting place. Surah Muhammad. The great scholars of Islam, they have expounded upon this verse, explaining its meaning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanding us to know, fa'lam, commands us to know. The great Imam Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering us to learn. And this knowledge, it is the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an individual obligation. Meaning every single one of us is responsible for knowing the meaning of these words. So familiar. La ilaha illallah. No one is exempt, regardless who they are, regardless what position they have, in what chair they sit, or what salary they receive. No one is exempt. La ilaha illallah. We find conviction in these words. In these words we are taught the fundamentals of our faith. Say, La ilaha illallah. You hear the words again. Imagine. You hear the words again, but this time they're clearer. They're clearer than before. Perhaps in front of the congregation, someone is uttering La ilaha illallah. Someone has embraced Islam. You shout takbir, and the congregation answers Allahu Akbar. You begin to offer assistance to the new believer. Perhaps even you offer your son or your daughter in marriage. Overwhelmed with excitement, happiness. These words in this context, they give us hope. Because they remind us, as we witness a revert embrace Islam, they remind us of Allah's forgiveness and His mercy. أَمَا عَلِمْتَ أَنَّ الْإِسْلَامَ يَهْدِمُ مَا كَانَ قَبْلَهُ. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, do you not know that embracing Islam, it wipes out all that has gone before it? When someone enters into Islam, they are pardoned for the sins they committed before. So we are filled with hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show us mercy. We are reminded in this moment of His mercy. La ilaha illallah. You hear it again. It starts to become clear. louder and louder. Perhaps you're with your family on a joyous occasion, leaving the house as you begin to chant the takbirat. You begin to chant the takbirat and you enter into the masjid to join your community in celebration. And they are chanting and shouting the takbirat, La ilaha illallah. It becomes clearer yet again. As if you're there, imagine yourself. The place, it's familiar. It becomes familiar now. The smell of the room you're in, the color of the walls, the furniture, the sound of electronics in the background. Where are you? Do you have any idea where you are when you hear these words, La ilaha illallah? You're in the hospital. Nurses are coming in and out. White sheets, sterile, cold. You can hear the shortness of breath so clearly that you can feel it. And again you say, La ilaha illallah. And right at this moment, you realize that it's not you that's hearing it, but it's you that's saying it. It's not the adhan in the ear of a newborn. It's not the shahada being uttered by a new Muslim. And it's certainly not the takbirat of Eid. What you are hearing from your own mouth is what they call al-talqeen. The great Imam al-Ba'li rahimahullah, he says that when it descends upon them, meaning when death descends, it's recommended for the gentlest of their family to quench their thirst with water or something to drink, to moisten their lips with cotton. And that's what you're doing at this moment next to your most precious beloved, tending to them. He goes on and says to implicitly direct them to say La ilaha illallah once and not exceeding 3 times, so that the last words with their last breath is La ilaha illallah. Brothers and sisters, imagine yourself as you're holding your mother's hand, merciful and loving, who cared for you your entire life. As you look into your father's eyes, strong he was, like an oak tree, sheltering you throughout your years. As you sit there embracing your spouse, husband or wife, who adored you and gave you a family of your own. As you hold the hand of your son, who brought you joy and honored your family with an heir. As you cradle your daughter, your princess, the jewel of your crown, so sweet and tender. And it is with these words, these familiar words, that you bid them farewell. La ilaha illallah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه ونصلي ونسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters, remembering death, as painful as it may seem, to embrace our humanity, it is a prophetic practice, and thus it is filled with wisdom. From the many benefits of remembering death is that it pushes us to be hasty in repenting and seeking Allah's forgiveness. When we accept our fragile nature, our short shelf life, we will run to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeking forgiveness. Remembering death also brings satisfaction to the heart. Wherever you may be in this world, whatever you have or don't have, knowing that it will come to an end and that you will move on from this brings a level of satisfaction, a feeling of closure. It also increases drive for worship, remembering your own death, embracing the fact that you will die and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It pushes you towards worship, al-ibadah. Someone who is mindful of their own death is truly special. We live in a culture today where we try our best to deny that reality. In this culture, it is not something spoken about, and we will pay and give and sacrifice all we can just to hang on another minute, another moment, another second. But someone that can embrace their own death is a truly special person. They are from the most savvy, intelligent, and resolute people. By remembering death, they are better prepared for the moment when someone is gently whispering in their ear, say La ilaha illallah. They will leave this world dignified and honored. The Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said by Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, as he says, Ataytu an-Nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ashara. I came to the Prophet ﷺ the 10th of a group of 10. A man from the Ansar came to him and said, Ya Nabi Allah, man akyasun nas wa ahsamun nas. This man, he came and asked, who are the most clever, most resolute people? The Prophet ﷺ, he says, أكثرهم ذكرا للموت وأشدهم استعدادا للموت قبل نزول الموت. Those that remember death the most and they're most prepared for death before it descends. Before it descends upon them. He says, أولئك هم الأكياس. These are the most savvy, intelligent type. Didn't mention the degrees, the academic pursuits. Didn't mention success in business. He mentioned remembering death and preparing for it. And he concludes saying, ذهبوا بشرف الدنيا والآخرة. They will leave with the honor of this world and the hereafter. But if you remember our little exercise, it was not you that passed on to the mercy of your Lord. It was your most precious beloved. Whoever that may be in your life, your mother, your father, your spouse, your brother or sister, your children, they passed on to the mercy of their Lord, and you were left behind to deal with and cope with that loss. Feelings of sorrow and sadness have now crept into your heart, and this is very natural. The Prophet ﷺ lived through a year they called Am al-Huzn, the year of sadness, with the death of his wife Khadija radiallahu anha and his uncle. And here we are. While we struggle to embrace our own humanity and we prepare for our own death, how many of us are truly prepared to cope with the pain and sorrow of the many losses that we will face on our journey to Allah? Because they will be numerous. And the severity of that pain and sorrow will be equivalent to the moments of joy and happiness that we experience. There are times we are extremely happy. You can only imagine that that will be met with other moments where we are equally filled with sadness and pain. That's the way of this world. Our Prophet ﷺ, he lived a very dynamic life. He managed both success and failure. And a part of his legacy are the tools he left behind for us to use in our own lives. Perhaps you thought, when you were sitting there in that hospital room, say La ilaha illallah. Perhaps you thought that was for them only, when in reality, it was for you both. Brothers and sisters, this week will mark the beginning of a new series dedicated to highlighting the numerous tools and methods found in our tradition to help us cope with our feelings of sorrow and loss. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to that which He loves and is pleased with, that He ease our burdens, that He cure our ill, and that He keep our families safe as we journey to Him and the home of the hereafter. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.